Hey guys, welcome to today's video. So I've had a few people email me and Instagram me and Snapchat me over the last few weeks asking me about interview questions and how to prepare for their interview and things like that. So I understand most of you have submitted all your medical school applications and stuff, and well done for getting it in good time. So the next stage in that process is obviously preparation for interviews, and even though I think it's slightly early to be preparing for interviews, I thought I'd just do this I thought I'd just do this video today because I have some time and some of you guys are now starting to worry about it. So yeah, let's get started. So before the questions, I did a blog post a while ago talking about how to prepare for a medical school interview in terms of what to wear, what to do on the day, how to behave on the day, and what to do afterwards. So I'll link the post in the description bar down below, and you can check it out either before or after you watch this video if you want to. But in terms of questions, there are a few questions that I feel are mandatory in your preparation for medical interviews, regardless of whether you've applied to Oxford or Cambridge or Southampton or London or wherever. You will invariably be asked any one of these questions, if not all of the questions. So yeah, I feel you need to at least have some sort of preparation with the questions that I'm going to talk about today. So I used a book like this when I was preparing for my interviews. I will link a link down in the description bar about where to buy it, but basically it's called Medical Interviews, and instead of saying CTSD and Registrar Interview Skills, it will say medical school interviews or something like that. Obviously my next stage is applying for specialist training. This is why I have this book, but when I was applying to medical school, I had a similar book, and it looks exactly like this with the same sort of icons and things, and yeah, I had that book, and it just helped me to structure my questions, structure my answers to the questions that I felt that I was going to be asked. So that's the only book I used to prepare for my interviews, and I found it really helpful. So yeah, I recommend that you go buy that book. I'm sure it's expensive. I can't remember how much I paid for it, but as I said, I'll link in the description bar down below. But it's a good investment, I feel, and I obviously liked it so much that I have this one in the next stage. So yeah, I highly recommend it, and I'm not being paid by anybody to say this. It's just, yeah, it's a good book. Right. So the question that everybody's expecting to be asked and everybody would have prepared, and I think there's something that the admissions tutor uses to sort of break the ice and get you going on the day, is why do you want to do medicine? Obviously everybody's answer is different as to why they want to do medicine, and you've written about it in your personal statement, in, I don't know, 4,000 words or something that you had to write in your personal statement. So this is your chance to summarize that personal statement into something that you can say in 2 minutes, basically. Obviously the admissions tutor has read your personal statement, and they know what you said, and they've picked you because of your personal statement as well as your grades and all that good stuff. But they've read your personal statement, and so they're not looking for you to regurgitate everything you said on your personal statement. Obviously writing why you want to do medicine is different to saying why you want to do medicine. So this is your chance to say that succinctly and clearly and convincingly, and yeah, so that the admissions tutor picks you, basically. For me, I didn't know how to prepare for this question. I didn't know how to answer this question even, and I didn't have anything prepared until the day of my interview, when the guy asked me why I wanted to do medicine, and I just regurgitated stuff out and I forgot it as soon as I said it. So yeah, I think it's a really hard question to prepare, but it's definitely something that you need to at least have some sort of idea of in your head, because you will be asked this question 100% of the time. Next is why this university or why this course structure, and this is your chance to sort of stroke the admissions tutor's ego, because obviously they've worked so hard on making their course a very good one and all that stuff. So this is your chance to say, well, I applied to Leicester instead of applying to London because, well, Leicester is just so good. Leicester has all this goodness that London doesn't offer. I mean, you guys have PBL, which is problem-based learning, and London just doesn't have that, for example. Or you guys have an integrated approach to learning medicine, which Southampton doesn't have, or something like that, and you want to have an idea of the course structure. Yeah, this is really easy stuff to research. You can just go on any med school med school internet webpage, and they will tell you their course structure. They'll tell you that, you know, you have patient contact in the first week, or you have placement in really good hospitals and all that. So yeah, just read the web page. It's really not difficult to answer this question. All you just need to do is do a tiny bit of reading. If you know somebody who's gone to that particular interview, then obviously talk to them and know other things as well about the university. Do they have opportunities for you to do teaching, or opportunities for you to pursue all your other interests? So do they have a musical sort of society, or do they have a medical society? Do they have a surgical society, and do you want to join that society? And do they have a really good sort of student support network? All that. So yeah, it doesn't take very much to research this information, but it's really good information to research, because you're going to just regurgitate all of that when you ask the question of why you want to apply to this university, and why you've chosen our course structure instead of somebody else's course structure. Right, this question is more sort of relevant to somebody who's a postgraduate student. So if you've been to university before and you've done another degree like nursing or pharmacy or anything, you've done maths, English, whatever you've done, this question is more relevant to you, although even undergraduates will be asked this question. And the question is, why not something else instead of medicine? So you've spoken about this on your personal statement. I hope you've convinced the admissions tutor that medicine is offering you something more than what maths offers you or what nursing offers you. And again, this is your chance to summarize all that you've put on your personal statement in, 1 or 2 minutes. This is important for a postgraduate student because it takes a lot more convincing. They need to convince the admissions tutor a lot more than an undergraduate student, because you spent 3 years, 4 years, 5 years doing something else, and now you've decided to do medicine. So it's different to saying, you've always wanted to do medicine. You wanted to do something else before you wanted to do medicine, and now you've decided to do medicine. So you need to convince the admissions tutor slightly bit more than an undergraduate student has to convince the admissions tutor. So this is your chance to say, yes, I've done pharmacy, yes, I've done nursing, but medicine is something that I really am interested in now, and I want to pursue because it's offering me something a little bit more than what pharmacy or what nursing or what English is offering me. So the admissions tutor will ask you, why don't you want to be a lecturer in that field? Why don't you want to go to the top of that field? Why don't you want to be a film director or something if you've done film studies? And again, this is your chance to say, yep, I recognize that I've done this, but medicine is offering me something different, something more, and something more exciting than what what I've done before is offering me. So yeah, if you're an undergraduate, this is obviously less difficult for you to convince the admissions tutor, because all you've done is your secondary school education, right? And you've done your A-levels, and you don't know anything else about being at university, like how I was. So it didn't take very much convincing the admissions tutor to say that I want to do medicine, and I want to do medicine only, and it's the only thing I want to do in the whole world. So please let me in, please. The next bit is not specific questions, but just for you to have an idea of the sort of topics that you might be asked during an interview. And this is something like your knowledge of the current NHS climate. it's a very sort of turbulent climate at the moment, and it's very uncertain climate at the moment, and you need to have some sort of idea about what's going on. So there's things like, you know, the new doctor's contract, what you feel about that, the new sort of quota of medical school students being allowed from foreign countries, that sort of thing. You just need to have some sort of idea about what's going on in the NHS. All this thing about cuts everywhere, and you know, poor nursing staff, or not poor nursing staff, but shortage of nursing staff, shortage of doctors, and all that stuff. You just need to have some sort of idea about what's going on in the NHS and be prepared to talk about that. So the way to prepare for this is obviously read the newspapers, or I have the BBC News app, and I just have the health section subscribed onto my phone, and it's really easy to just read, you know, tiny bits of news that are going on in the NHS. So yeah, have an app, a BBC News app, or a Guardian News app, or an Independent News app, you know, a robust newspaper, not some sort of tabloid that doesn't give you the full facts of the story. I suppose every sort of news or newspaper has some sort of they lean towards some sort of way, either left or right or wherever. But yeah, have a robust sort of source of information, because there's so many newspapers out there that are liars, basically. They don't tell the truth, and so you need to have a good source, because you don't want to turn up to an interview and have some sort of outdated answer or some sort of outdated idea about what's really going on. So the next thing you need to have some sort of idea about is things like the postcode lottery, and things like you know, children going to school without having breakfast, things that are not necessarily NHS related, but things that are determinants of health. So you know, poverty, lack of access to education, lack of access to clean water, lack of access to housing, that sort of thing. Just sort of basic governmental processes, and what's going on outside of the NHS, but things that affect people's health. So for me, I was asked what my thoughts were on the fact that, you know, children in Scotland were going to school without having had breakfast, and what I'd do about that. And I'll be honest, I hadn't done any revision for that question. I didn't know anything about the fact that children in Scotland were going to school hungry. So this is something that I just winged on the day, and yeah. I can't remember exactly what I said, but the admissions tutor person asked me, you know, where I'd get the funding to make sure that every child in Scotland has food before they go to school. And I said something about getting funding from some other place in the NHS, and the guy wasn't impressed because he said, well, what's going to happen to that area that you're taking funding from? And yeah, you just need to have some sort of idea and have an opinion about what you change about the NHS. You know, the NHS is currently up to any... It's up for anybody to change, up for any suggestions really, because it's just not in a very good way at the moment. But yeah, just have an idea about the things that are going on and what you do, and also things about the postcode lottery. So the guy asked me about what I do. I have two patients. One is a woman who is, you know, 35, and the other one is a 70-year-old woman, or something like 50-year-old woman, and they both want IVF because they want to have children, but obviously the NHS can't fund both of them. So what's your argument about funding the 35-year-old or funding the 50-year-old? And yeah, he's looking for you to say, although the 50-year-old is slightly older and IVF is sort of less successful in older people, they can still have access if this happens, or they need to fulfill this criteria in order to have funding by the NHS to have IVF. So yeah, just have an idea about the sort of topics that are covered within the postcode lottery, and things like funding for certain things within the NHS, and yeah, get that prepared. Another ethical dilemma that I was asked was, you know, this is the end of the world, Armageddon has come, and there's only one seat left on the rocket to Mars because Earth is about to explode, and there are 7 people left to choose from, and who would you give that final seat to? So there was a doctor, there was a 70-year-old scientist, there was a mother with 2 children, there was a murderer, there was somebody else, and I had to say which person I'd give the final seat to. And the person who asked me this question was obviously looking for me to pick one person and to justify my answer. And there's no, for any ethical question, there's no wrong or right answer. You just have to be able to justify your point. So for example, if you said you're going to give the final seat to the doctor, you know, you're giving that seat to the doctor. Why? Because they're going to treat everybody in Mars. There's going to be, you know, a whole new climate, a whole new bacteria and stuff, and you need a doctor to be able to diagnose that people are having, I don't know, altitude sickness or something. But you could also have the scientist who will be able to, you know, do some research on the air in Mars, the soil, the water situation, blah blah. And but the scientist is 70, so are they going to live for much longer to provide any benefit for anybody who is going to Mars? What about the murderer? Yes, he's murdered people, but surely he's a human being as well, and he deserved to have that seat on the rocket. And the mother who has 2 children, well, could you just give one of the young children a spot because they have all their life ahead of them, blah blah blah. So yeah, they're just looking for you to justify your answer, say why you'd pick one person over another person. The admissions tutor will push you and, you know, make you want to change your mind about who you've picked. But the idea to this question is for you to pick one person and stick with that person. Yes, the admissions tutor is going to say, but this murderer has murdered thousands of people. Why do they deserve a seat on the plane? Surely the scientist deserves a seat on the plane, sorry, the rocket, or whatever it is. But yes, stick to your answer. If you've picked the murderer, stick to the murderer, even if the admissions person tries to change your mind. Some questions are just general questions, and they just require you to have some sort of idea about how you'd answer these questions. So for example, how do you relax? How do you cope with stress? How would you cope if a friend wasn't coping with the stresses of being in medical school? How do you revise? Will our course structure suit you as a person? All that stuff. You just need to have some sort of idea about how to answer these questions. Really think about yourself as a person and answer these questions sort of genuinely, truthfully, and all that good stuff. There's no point lying in your interview and saying, you know, this and the other. Admissions tutor have been doing this job for a long time, and they know how to, you know, pick out liars and people that are just fobbing them off. So yeah, be really genuine and just answer the questions truthfully. And after your interview, just forget about that whole thing, because you're going to feel really crap and you're going to feel like, I've failed to get this spot and I've messed up and all this. Just literally try as much as you can to relax and go and do something else completely different, to medicine, to revising and everything. Go for dinner, go to a dance, go to a dance. Who calls it a dance in life? Shabba. Anyway. That's it guys, hopefully this video has been helpful. I will type all the questions in the description bar down below, because I realised I said a lot of questions without too many gaps in between. So yeah, I'll type all the questions I've said in the description bar, and then you can just look at them if you want. Don't forget to check out my blog post, because as I said, I spoke a lot more about other things besides questions to prepare for your interview. So yeah. Thanks for watching guys, and good luck to all of you that have interviews. You will literally smash it. You'll be fine. I'll see you at my next video. Bye guys.